Previously, on the fan of history, the Assyrian Empire was growing weaker and weaker, Urartu was growing stronger and stronger, and the Greeks had started colonizing the world. So, what happened in the 760s BC? Well, I'm gonna tell you. You should watch the great civilizations of the world in 800 BC before you watch this, so you sort of have the scene set. This is gonna be a long episode, and I want you to tell me if you want episodes to be this long, or if you want the shorter, like 10-15 minutes episodes. Argishti is the most powerful ruler in the Near East. Urartu is his state, that is Proto-Armenia. He is the sixth king of Urartu. We have his annals, and his greatest accomplishment is founding the city of Yerevan in the capital of modern Armenia in 782 BC. There is a conflict between Urartu and the Assyrian Empire. This is a map of the borderland. Urartu has one of its strongest kings ever, and Assyria has its weakest king ever. There is also Shamshi-Ilu the Tutanu, the field marshal of Assyria, controlling this border area and keeping the Urartians in the mountains. But the Urartians are protected by mountains and fortresses. So on the field of battle, Shamshi-Ilu will defeat Urartu. But in the mountains, Urartu is safe. But we're not going to talk about Assyria or Urartu now, because now it's time for the main topic. Greece. First, I'd like to introduce two more city-states. We already talked about Sparta, Corinth, the poor village that is Athens at this time, and the Euboean cities of Chalcis and Eretria. So now I'd like to talk about Thebes. You can see Thebes at the top of the map, pretty close to Athens and Delphi. It's very hard to date anything. The Greeks did not keep historical records until Herodotus, and that is a long time in the future. Thebes was often called Seven-Gated Thebes to distinguish it from the Egyptian city of Thebes. Thebes did exist in the Mycenaean times before the Bronze Age collapse. And if you watch the Hercules Disney movie, this is the large city they arrive at. Very important historical fact. Thebes becomes the most powerful city in this area through a long process, including a lot of wars and climate change that knocks out its competitors. Thebes will be for a very long time a great rival to Athens. And I would love to talk about the sacred band of Thebes and how they defeat the Spartans. But that belongs to the 4th century BC, so that's not going to get covered on Fan of History for a while. Okay, got it. Thebes, important city in the north. So let's talk about Argos. The Argives, the people of Argos, were long considered the best warriors in Greece. There was an oracle from Delphi saying, "The Chalcidians," from Chalcis on Euboea, "are the best of men, but not the best of warriors, an honor reserved for the Argives." These people were Dorians. They are divided into tribes. They have fratrized just like the Spartans. And they invaded this area during the Bronze Age collapse. They took it over. They kicked out the Achaeans. Maybe not all of them. They were brothers and rivals to Sparta. And if you remember when I talked about Sparta, they have already tried to stop Spartan expansion. Argos stands on a fertile plain. There was a Neolithic settlement even at this place. It was also a Mycenaean stronghold. And when the Dorians invaded, legend has it that their king, Temenium, was the greatest king of the Dorians, actually settled down in Argos, and that the rulers of Argos in the early years were the descendants of this Dorian king. Argos always felt that they were the leaders of the Dorians. There are 3 hills in Argos which the city was built around. There were early cults here, maybe earlier than in other places in Greece. And one of the most important cults was the cult of Apollo Potheus, which we'll talk more about in this very episode. because now we have to talk about a very, very interesting feature of ancient Greece, the Oracle at Delphi. This is the oracle. This is the female priest, the Pythia, receiving the message from Apollo through the vapors. The oracle at Delphi is a shrine, a temple to Apollo Pytheus, that is the Dorian god that we just mentioned. There were many oracles in Greece, but this one will become the most famous by far. We have already seen the Oracle of Delphi give advice to the Spartans. And the Spartans, like many Greeks, but more than other Greeks, were obsessed with the Oracle of Delphi. So there was a problem for the Oracle, because there was almost always a Spartan nearby who recorded what the Oracle said and sent it to Sparta. And the Spartans didn't keep record of anything else that I know about, but they did love to keep records of whatever the Oracle of Delphi said. And because this is, as I will claim many times, one of history's best scams ever, this was very bad for the Oracle, because they also needed to keep track of what the Oracle had said and to not get killed by the Spartans if the Spartans discovered the scam. But the Oracle also had very early connections to Crete, to Corinth, and the rise of the Oracle, the first appearance of the oracles coincides with the rise of Corinth. They also had strong ties to Chalcis on Euboea. But let's look at how the Oracle at Delphi worked. So, you're coming to Delphi to get an oracle from the Oracle. The lead character in this drama is the Pythia. She's a woman, she's a female priest of Apollo Pytheus. She has to be over 50, and she's the Pythia for life. Later, when the Oracle became really powerful in classic times, there were 3 Pythias. But at this time there is only one. And often the job as the Pythia is really dangerous. So they tended to die off quickly, and then they would have to choose a new Pythia from the female priests of Apollo Pytheus. But you are visiting this oracle. So you come to Delphi, and you have to stand in line. And you could stand in line for a long time. The oracle only gives predictions on certain dates, mostly in the summer. And if you can grease the pockets of the priests, you could get to the front of the line. Then you were interviewed by the priests of Apollo to see if your question to the oracle was worthy. And you probably had to bribe them again. And then you had to pay the fee for the oracle, called the Pelanos. You had to sacrifice an animal. And at that time you are hopefully proven worthy to ask a question of the oracle. You are then taken by a male priest to the Castalian spring, and the Pythia sits on a tripod, and she is high as hell from the vapors of the spring. And there has been investigations of these vapors, and it is probable that they are actually narcotic. The male priest talks to the Pythia and asks your question. You are not allowed to talk to the Pythia, and the Pythia answers in a drug-crazy trance. And the male priest then interprets the incantations of the Pythia. So she can pretty much say anything because she's high. And the priest just will give you the answer that he feels you need. And the answers are almost always ambiguous, because Apollo is never wrong. So what made this particular oracle so famous? Well, we shouldn't underestimate blind luck. They were lucky with their predictions. There is no doubt about that. But there is also amazing PR. And there is a very early association with the oracle with the colonization movement. So it became practice in Greece to ask the oracle at Delphi about your colonization. Should my city make a colony? Where should we make the colony? And this helped the Oracle of Delphi a lot. The priests used a lot of skill. They had knowledge of politics. They had a lot of connections. And they also had common sense. So they could often give you a reasonable answer. Very few of the oracles, the predictions of the oracle, are actually predictions. They are answers to specific questions asked in a yes-no manner. So that reduces the chance of being wrong. The Greeks were gullible, of course. They wanted to believe in Apollo. So they tended to give credit to the oracle, even if the oracle did not deserve it. There was also a last resort. The priest, the male priest that talked to the Pythia, could actually be wrong. He could interpret the drug answer wrong. And thus Apollo is saved and the priest is blamed. I don't know if the priest was actually punished if he was wrong. But the oracle and the cult will choose the right side in two important 8th century wars that will come up. The Lelantine and the Messenian wars. And later the oracle will switch sides in politics. And they will always be quite skillful at choosing the winning side. The oracle at Delphi is around for a long time. The last recorded response is in 395 AD to Emperor Theodosius the Great. This emperor, already mentioned in the last decade, is a great emperor for putting an end to anything that's fun. So I think he put an end to the oracle as well, because it was definitely not Christian, and Emperor Theodosius was a very fanatic Christian. There are 535 at least predictions from the oracle, or answers from the oracle preserved, and I will mention them when they become relevant to the show. So the Spartans believed very much in the oracle, as did many Greeks, but I like to tell you one incident where Sparta, this is much later, this is in classic times, but Sparta is at war with Athens, and Athens has bribed the oracle, as they did several times, to give answers to other people. So if somebody from Sparta shows up, tell them this. So the Spartans show up, they ask the oracle of Delphi a question. They say, what should we do about the Athenians? And the oracle cries, run away, run for the hills. And the Spartans go, hey, we know you're bribed, but we like the real answers. Could you please give us the real answer now? And the oracle goes, okay, and then gives a typical answer of the oracle. And the Spartans are really happy. Way, we got the answer. So back to Mesopotamia. In 769 BC, Eriba-Marduk becomes the king of Babylon. He is a Chaldean. He is from the tribes in the Sealand. He is of the Bit Yakini tribe. Kingship in Babylonia is actually heretic. You could inherit the kingship, but nobody does in these violent and troubled times. So there will be kings of all the three major Chaldean tribes. But maybe I should give you a special video about the Babylonian political landscape, because Babylon is quite complicated with the Arameans, the Kassites, the Chaldeans, the Sumerians, the Assyrians, etc. So tell me in the comments if you want a Babylonian political landscape video. Eriba-Marduk gets a ton of credit. He is remembered as the great restorer. He has a title, the re-establisher of the foundations of the land. And remember how bad Babylon has had it for a long time, since the attacks of Shamshi-Adad. But I can't really understand why he gets so much credit, because he doesn't do a whole lot of things. He drew out some Arameans from the fields of Borsippa and Babylon. He restored Marduk's throne in the Marduk temple, the Esagila in Babylon. But he also failed. He restored another thing to another temple, which was like faulty and later thrown out because it was too cheap. I earlier talked about the Era epic and gave it a date in the 9th century BC, but there is a contesting date naming it to be written in this era, in the time of Eriba-Marduk. That's all I know about Eriba-Marduk, but he's really credited with a lot from the Babylonians, and every king from now on will remember the golden days of Eriba-Marduk for some reason. In 769 BC, Some Assyrian attacks the Itwa. Remember, the Itwa is an Aramean tribe, and I have no idea what they're up to, but they're getting attacked by Assyrians all the time. And there is the question, how can they survive this? How can the Assyrian army fail to defeat them? Shamshi-Ilu, the Turtanu, could be in the lead of this. It's the eponymous year of Baal-i-Elijah, the governor of Arapha. And why is he named Baal? Is he a Phoenician? It's not impossible. There is no campaign in 768 BC. The only thing the eponym chronicle says is that the king stayed in the land. And that is a really, really bad sign for Assyria. Remember, Ashur wants yearly campaigns. The god of war wants his tribute, and he's not getting it. In 768 BC, Argishti goes to war against his only vassal. The only vassal we know about is King Utupurshi of Diaki, and he's rebellious. Apparently it's not very good to be an Urartian vassal. I have no idea where this is. It is probably far from the Assyrian border. But Argishti defeats this guy and advances into the land of Abnuliani. And there is Annals ends, so we have no idea what Argishti was doing or what Urartu was doing in 5 years from this. And that's bad, because Urartu was... Okay, maybe they were defeated by the Assyrians in the last decade, but they were going strong, and Argishti is remembered as the most powerful king they had. So those were probably interesting years that we don't know anything about. In 767 BC, Assyria attacks the Gananati. This is an attack into Babylonian territory, and this campaign might actually have been led by the Assyrian king, the unremarkable Ashur-dan III. It is unknown what happened and what effect it had, and what Eriba-Marduk thought about this. It is a possibility that Eriba-Marduk requested this campaign because the Gananati were causing trouble. We are simply not sure, but it's not impossible. In 767 BC, Amaziah of Judah dies. He has been co-ruling Judah with his son Uzziah since he was released from his embarrassing captivity in Samaria, the capital of Israel. Amaziah's father was assassinated, and he killed the assassins. So now the sons of his father's assassins are out to get him, but Amaziah knows this, and he flees to his, I think it's the second most powerful city in Judah, Lachish. We'll talk a lot about Lachish at the end of this century. There might even be a video about Lachish only. But in Lachish, Amaziah is killed. His body is taken back to Jerusalem and buried. And there is no revolt. Apparently the assassins are happy with this and done. So Uzziah, who has been co-ruling with Amaziah, can just become the sole king of Judah. And overall these are happy times despite this murder of Amaziah. In 766 BC there is a horse raid on the Medes by the Assyrians. The eponymy of Musalim Inurta, the governor of Til. It's been a while since the Medes got beat up by Assyrians, and this year they were. Now things are starting to go really bad for the Assyrians. In 765 BC there is a plague in Assyria. We don't know what the plague was. It's hard to tell what the disease was. But this is the first reference to a plague that I can remember from the empire, so it must be very serious. There was another campaign into Babylonia, but the next year the king could not campaign, and Ashur is getting madder at his people. In 763 BC, Argishti dies, and I can't really figure out why he is generally considered to be the greatest king of Urartu, because his son is even greater, I think. But we'll talk about him later. Argishti was buried in a great chamber tomb hewn into the face of the rock at his citadel or at Lake Van. Not in the north where he had his greatest triumphs, and not in the vicinity of Yerevan. There was also a record of his annals buried beside him, and we have most of his annals, which is a great source. So his son Sarduri II becomes the king of Urartu. He will rule Urartu for 28 years. And I think this guy could be the greatest king of Urartu. He has a great title. He is the magnificent king, the mighty king, king of the universe, king of the land of Nairi, a king having none equal to him, a shepherd to be wondered at, fearing no battle, a king who humbled those who would not submit to his authority. He also has annals that we have recovered, but I could think of a reason why people don't think he's the greatest king of Urartu, because his father had been doing great things, and Sarduri will be doing great things as well, but during his reign he will run into one of the top 10 military strategists in the history of the world. He will run into someone he did not expect, because he will go face to face, toe to toe in battle with the Assyrian. So we have to talk about the little kingdom of Kammanu. You can see it at the top of this map. This is in what is today Turkey, near modern Arslan Tepe. It's straight west from Lake Van, and we mentioned this kingdom before, for example when we talked about Shalmaneser III. It is a Neo-Hittite state. It is a remnant of the old Hittite Empire. The language is Luvian. And this poor little kingdom will be hard-pressed to avoid Urartian and Assyrian aggression in the years to come. The king is Kella-Ruada, the son of Shaku. And look what happens. He's attacked immediately by the Urartians, because when Sarduri II becomes king, he immediately goes west, attacks Melid, captures the royal city of Sasi, which I don't know where it is. I thought Melid was the capital. And Kella-Ruada yields, pays tributes in gold, silver and cattle. And there are 8 important fortresses that Sarduri now takes possession of to further protect himself from Assyria. He also attacks Kanishi and Musani. And now Sarduri's influence is beginning to be felt in North Syria. And he's now threatening to envelop the holdings of Shamshi-Ilu. Til-Barsip is in the middle of the map. That's Kar Shalmaneser, the Assyrian fortress where Shamshi-Ilu lives. And he must now be quite scared. But we have zero record of what Shamshi-Ilu was actually doing in the 760s BC. And I wonder what he's doing, because he's still around, he's still powerful, but I have no idea what he did. In 763 BC, the heavens show a sign over Assyria. There's an eclipse on June the 15th, 763 BC. We can calculate this date exactly. It is noted in the Eponym Chronicle in the year of Bur-Sagile, governor of Gusan, and this is one thing that helps the Assyrian dates to be so exact. But this is a really bad sign, and it's interpreted as such. And there's the basic saying from the oracles in Assyria is doom, doom to Assyria. So there is a revolt which lasts for many years, 2 years or more. We don't have many details. The record says that the revolt in Libi Ali, but Libi Ali is in the very city of Ashur itself, the old capital. Remember, the capital is now at Kala. But this is the religious capital of Assyria, with the Ashara, the great temple. Ashur-dan III tries to remedy this by doing some work at the temple, but the rebellion takes a year to put down. There is no royal campaign in either of these years. Assyria is now weaker than ever before, ever since the empire started, pretty much. Is this a full-scale civil war? Who is his opponents? We don't know. But he will manage to retain power, or whatever power he now had. Maybe it's totally controlled by the nobles. But you can imagine what this does to the western provinces in Syria, for example, because Assyria has no time to bully their vassals. In 762 BC, maybe, the city of Chalcis founds a colony in Libya. This is a contested date. It might have been 630 BC actually. We'll talk a lot more about the Greek colonization in the 730s. And at this time I really fear how much information there is for the 750s and the 730s. But we'll probably talk about Greek colonization in most of the episodes for the 8th and the 7th centuries BC. In 762 to 760, Sarduri campaigns in the north. You can see Lake Sevan on the middle of this map. You see Yerevan to the left of it. This is the area where there's fighting. Sarduri fights against Murini, the king of Abiyaleniaki and Uliuki, on the west bank of Lake Sevan. He also defeats Sinalibi, the king of Tuliku, in the land of Luiki. And these lands are very small. And Luiki is supposed to be on the southwest bank of the lake, but I thought that area was already under Urartian control. So it's very hard. These place names, the small nations that the Urartians beat up, it's all very unclear. In 761 and 760 there is more revolt in Assyria. The record says revolt in Arappa, and Arappa is very close to Ashur. Look at the map, you see Ashur at the top and Arappa is right east of it. So if it is the same revolt, and surely it is related, there is a 4-year civil war here that we have no information about. But somehow Ashur-dan III manages to stay on the throne well into the next decade. There are no campaigns against anyone, and the revolt will actually continue. There will be another revolt and another plague in 759 BC. The Assyrian Empire is close to rock bottom. In 761 BC, the great reign of Eriba-Marduk in Babylonia ends. We don't know why, or why he's considered such a great king, but he's succeeded by Nabush-Suma-Ishkun. He is probably a Chaldean of another tribe, and he will rule Babylonia 761 to 748 BC, and it will not go very well. Nabu-Suma-Imbi, another Nabu name. Nabu, remember, scribe of the gods. Babylonian names begin with god names. This guy is the governor of Borsippa, the city of truth and justice, one of the most important cities in Babylonia, and I'll talk more about him in the 750s BC. In 760 BC there is a huge earthquake in Israel. This is a major event and it's mentioned in the Bible in several places. There's also some other records of it. There is archaeological evidence of this in Israel and Jordan. Lachish, the city I mentioned before where Amaziah was killed, has a destruction layer from this earthquake. There are some estimates of this quake, and it seems to have been an 8.2 on the Richter scale, making it the largest earthquake on the Dead Sea transform fault zone during the latest 4 millennia. So this is a huge earthquake. Egypt, let's not talk about it yet. But we can talk about Kashta, who becomes the king of Kush. His name means the Kushite. He is the father of Pi. Remember, Pi will save us from Egyptian confusion. Kashta will rule Kush between 760 and 752 BC. Kush is the ancient name of Nubia, and it is Nubia, so we'll talk more about Kush, Nubia, and the rising power of the kingdom in the next decade. This is still the golden age of Israel and Judah. Uzziah rules Judah, Jeroboam II rules Israel, and together they rule a kingdom almost as big as the fairy tale king David is said to have ruled. Remember, David and Solomon did not exist. Wealth is shown in the archaeological record. There is money, there is prosperity, there is luxury in both Israel and Judah. There is once again good relations with Phoenicia. The Phoenicians to the north of the map were pretty mad when Jehu killed all of them that were in Israel back in the 9th century BC, but now they're happy again. Moab, Ammon and Edom are conquered and vassal states. Uzziah also takes this opportunity to beat up the Philistines living on the Mediterranean coast. He attacks Gath, Ashdod and Yabne, and he probably gains access to the coast, meaning now Israel and Judah controls a lot of trade routes that increases the wealth. Uzziah uses his money to fortify Jerusalem, So at this point Jerusalem becomes a much harder city to besiege, which we will see later in the narrative. Overall, Uzziah is a wonderful king, but there are prophets in both Israel and Judah, and they are complaining. And they especially complain about all the luxury and all the foreign gods. In China, the spring and autumn period is going on. The nobles are in control. There is King Ping, who is the king of the Eastern Zhou dynasty, but he doesn't have much power. His heavenly armies are gone. And there will be a new system, and I don't know really when it starts, but I think it is later than this, where the king sort of makes a shogun, a hegemon. The leader of the state with the most powerful military becomes sort of the overseer of all of China. And he's supposed to protect the weaker states and the Zhou royal clan from the intruding barbarians. And they are the Northern Di, the Southern Man, the Eastern Yi, and the Western Rong. The Western Rong includes the Dog people. But here is a period of about 100 years that I have very, very little information about. So China will become much like India, that we don't really know a lot about in this century. Next episode we'll talk about a lot of things. I don't know at this point how I will split up the 750s BC, but you get to decide. Tell me, do you like the longer or the shorter episodes? Do you want the episodes to be like 10-15 minutes, or do you want them to be longer like this one? Please talk to me on Facebook and Twitter. Please check out the WordPress site. Please share, subscribe, like and share. And also please support the Fan of History on Patreon. Thank you for watching.